Welcome to This Is All Your Life. That's sarcastic. Meaning it's only your fucking life. Who gives a shit? No big deal. Overcoming the bullshit to open your heart and mind with Janice Corsano and Holly Corsano. Hey, Alice.
Hey.
Well, today is
The new moon.
the new moon, and they haven't heard from us in like a damn month.
It's true.
Because of the eclipse energies, they were intense, and we're still feeling them. The
Yeah.
amount of crazy. I've had nothing but emergencies ever
Yeah.
since the eclipse energies. It's been like one emergency client after another, and like crazy stuff that you can't make this shit up stuff.
Mhm.
Like everything is, you can't make this shit up. So hopefully people are starting to see that in the creation of, it's like so insane that you're like, all right, if you were writing this, you wouldn't write that. It would be so ridiculous.
Right.
You'd be like, I would have never imagined that could happen, and that many of them keep going. It's like the shit doesn't stop. It's like, okay, and then that happened, and then that happened, and then that happened. So the crazy of it hopefully starts to make you see that it's too ridiculous. It's almost too ridiculous.
Yeah. Like the setup is like too perfect.
Yeah,
You mean?
it's like too ridiculous, and the things are so intense, like so bizarre.
That's true.
You know, there's so many of them. I can't even go into how many there were, but
Mhm.
or I can't even think of because as we know, my head's not on these days.
Yeah. Lots
Meaning,
of brain fog.
yeah, lots of brain fog. The brain fog. The luckily it doesn't affect the channeling department. Thank God. It just is exhausting. It's a little exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel very tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Today I feel very tired. But then I've been like that for days now, so that's not new. And the sleep is off ever since the eclipse. The full moon one, the one that was on the 21st when we had that terrible storm up here.
Ah.
The ice, snow, sleet, freezing rain storm, which kind of went along with the eclipse. It was like a, and here's all of it,
Right.
and then it's going to be 20 below zero.
Right.
Just in case that wasn't good enough, we will now make it even more fun for you to try to do something with that.
Right.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. But still, underneath all of it, there's some kind of a weird lightness that's different than last year, which is kind of nice.
Mhm.
Where you could start to see this is so effing ridiculous.
Right. Oh, I was saying that I was feeling that this morning too, where it was like feeling heavy. Like I could feel that there's like a heaviness, and there's like something that is underneath a little bit that felt like a little bit like magical kind of in there.
Yeah, I feel magical energy.
Yeah. It just kind of feels like you know what the thing that keeps popping into my mind is like when you notice that the trees have buds on them and there's like that little like life energy, but it's still like gray and there's no color yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's like that's the visual of the feeling that I'm getting.
Right.
Where it's
That
like you know what's coming, like you don't actually like you're not
no.
there,
Right.
but
You don't know how it's coming.
yeah, I mean, but you know that it will be there, and you can feel like you can sense the like energy moving.
Yeah, it's definitely moving. You could feel a lot of movement,
Mhm.
and there's magic in the air. Like you
It
could
does
feel like
feel
there's like something magical.
it does, yeah. And I was texting one of my friends this morning about, and I said those words. Like, something feels a little magical.
It definitely feels magical.
Mhm. Well,
But
the other thing too that
but
keeps.
because we have all the other like insane things, hopefully people are getting the magical too. Because some of them are just so ridiculous that it's they're
You
a lot of
mean?
hardships and a lot of hard
Oh,
you know. So in those hardships and stuff, underneath there's some kind of a magical thing that's coming up. Like the energy, like there's magic is happening, and magic meaning the creation of things are moving. The divine energy is moving us to the higher vibration so we can get a different perspective
right.
and hopefully let go of the past stuff that we've been very resentful about or holding on to, giving us giving us a different perspective on it, to know that it has to, like, we need to let it go and heal from it. And a lot of times there isn't a person, like, it would be really nice for somebody to come in and apologize for the crap we feel like they did to us. It would be really nice. But a lot of times we don't get that. So say, like, um, if it was your mother or father,
Mhm.
they may not realize what they did to make you feel so hurt, or because to them maybe they didn't think they did anything.
Right.
But we still need to, or they had a good reason in their mind for why they did it, and you're never going to agree. But that really hurt you, and especially if they left you or abandoned you, and all of our issues, like, meaning all of our fears are coming up, because as we know, the only emotions when you take all of them out are fear or love, and we're trying to live more in love, but we're still in fear as
Right.
our main emotion. But something is changing in that, and there's like little feelings of more love, more positive energy, something better coming. And then that gets scary for people, because they're like, oh God, that don't last long. Like, something good happens. I get nervous about the good coming, because I'm like, well, don't you think we deserve some good now? It's been insane.
Right.
But they get nervous because of something good. What are you doing over there
I'm
with
lighting the.
I
What is
know
it?
what you're doing.
The
Your
Palo.
Palo Salto.
Yeah.
Um,
I need it.
smudging.
We all need it.
So she's smudging for all of us. Everyone
Yes.
getting smudged.
I grabbed the lighter in a panic.
Everyone's getting smudged. I was like, why are you dropping lighters and throwing stuff over there? I need to smudge immediately.
It's urgent. A sense of urgency.
The anxiety I'm feeling needs smudging immediately.
It's funny.
But that's kind of like the feeling. It's like there's some, and a few people that I saw earlier today, I could feel it in them. I could see, like, they had, as much as the intensity that they've been going through and the things that they've been going through are that you can't make this shit up stuff,
Mhm.
underneath they're starting to feel like there's something different.
Mhm.
There's something different. Like, it's going to be okay. Even though the things don't look like it's going to be okay, that something's saying it's going to be okay.
Right.
And that's, like, tapping more into the divine.
Right. I think that is like a practice thing too, because if you're used to having letting yourself wander into your like negative thoughts and like living in that world.
Wander?
You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Like you like wander that, but you don't realize you're there.
Yeah,
So
because I
it's
think a lot of
wandering.
people live the
Right, because they live there, so they don't realize they're like
living in the wander.
They're wandering there, but
That it's a choice.
yeah, right. Well, that's what I'm saying.
I'm
It's like,
choosing to think negative today. Too fucking bad.
right. Well, yeah, because it's like obviously like no one wants to do that. Like they're not like, yes, this is good. I'm gonna think so crappy today. This will be the best day, But no. But what I mean though is when you practice taking yourself out
Right.
of that and like putting yourself into a different thing, it's like
Into a different mindset. Yeah.
into a different mindset. It's like the thing you were saying about like she was like giving this example like last month. I don't know if we talked about this last time or not, but where it's like if you play baseball, you like practice until you play like your actual game. Like you're not just like willy nilly going in. Here, take a bat, go win now. Like there's lots
Yes,
of
because
practice.
there's a lot of practice in what the work is. So if you
Right.
don't practice it, then it's very hard to, when these things come up in our lives, right? And we're talking about co-creation and creating and understanding our beliefs and getting out of this 3D illusion that this is the way that life just is, and there isn't, like, you're not a divine being who has all these powers, like that is a powerful being, because we've been made to believe that we're so small, that you
Right.
have no control over anything, and that you didn't create this, and that this isn't part of, like, what you put in your path to help you to really learn. And this time it's kind of like you hit the all button. And I know I've said it many times, but we're in a time where it's going to keep pushing us because we put it that way, to learn, to grow, to keep going. Like, to be like, it's like it stepped on you, and now not only did it step on you, it ran you over, and then it did it again, and then you have to try to find the strength inside of you, which is where you start to connect to your spiritual self, like who you truly are. It's like they're showing it to me like the superhero. right?
Mhm.
The superhero, and they're going to get their gifts.
Right.
And they get the crap beat out of them left and right and all over the place. And all of a sudden, they get the strength inside of them to be like, no more.
Right, right.
And then all of a sudden, they get like, that's it. And then
Right.
sparks start shooting out of their hands and they start flying. And it kind of has that feeling.
Like how Matilda gets angry and then all of a sudden she's like
Moves things around,
Yeah.
and she's like,
I
it's
love that
that.
movie.
Me too. But it's that kind of a feeling. But the feeling is more about you really stepping into who you are. Like you're not this small being, and to be able to like use your power to start to feel like you have it and to see a new perspective and understanding how we create. You, it almost feels like that was the journey that you needed to take, because nothing that we're doing is for nothing.
Right.
Like I've always been shown that like whatever we're going through, it's not for no reason. We're having that experience because we needed the experience, even though they suck.
Right.
Now, some suck worse than others, but lately there's a lot of them that suck because we're getting down to very core, deep stuff and our biggest fears. So they seem to be in our face over and over and coming up in so many different ways that when we say you can't make it up, you can't. It's like, how would that be possible if
Mhm.
you were trying to write that? Like, you wouldn't write that. Even if you were writing a ridiculous sci-fi story, you wouldn't write that.
Mhm.
You know, some kind of crazy, fantasy thing, you wouldn't write that because nobody would believe it. They'd be like, okay, well, the whole point is they won't believe it, but not to that degree. That they really won't believe that, so we can't put that in there. Be like, so back to back, it's like your father getting hit by a car again,
Oh gosh.
on his
Yeah.
bicycle in
He
2 years.
wasn't on his bicycle.
Yeah,
He
he
was
was.
just waiting for the bus.
He had his bicycle. He was
Yeah,
on his
it was
bicycle.
it was not no, he was his bike
His
was
bicycle
was
was
next
next to him, but he had his bicycle, and he told me he was on his bicycle. He told me he was on his bicycle, and that the person had a heart attack and jumped the curb and hit him, which threw him into the sign, which then he pulled off one of the signs, which would hurt, and then no, I could swear he told me he was on his bike. Yeah, I'm almost positive.
He told me different.
Well, apparently he doesn't remember because he keeps getting hit with things.
Yeah, this is the third time he's been hit.
No, this is the
Right.
fourth time.
Fourth time. Yeah, fourth time.
Fourth time in a couple of years, but
Yeah.
2 times on his bicycle. 2 times that have to do with his bicycle and a car, and
Mhm.
he's like the 920 lives. You know, like a cat has 9
Yeah.
lives, he's got like 20.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody like get in so many things that would be you should not have made it through that
Mhm.
since he was like young,
Right.
teenage young,
Yeah.
and then being a fireman all those years. But so many to the point where you're like, wow, check. That
Like
would
just
have.
don't leave the
check.
house maybe.
Well,
You have a bullseye on you?
I don't know, but it's just insane the amount of things, but you couldn't you wouldn't write that because it would be like too ridiculous.
Right.
Like if you wrote all his things and be like, well, that happened and then that happened and that happened and then, he got this thing, and all of them would be like you should have died from those.
Mhm.
And there's probably 20 of them, and they're all like they're not little, they're all big,
Yeah, they're all like major
like
accidents.
motorcycle accidents to getting thrown out of burning buildings to the roof collapsing to like
Oh.
literal things where people do not make them out of. And I'm like, those are okay, all right, you're like on 20. I don't know how many you gave yourself, but apparently to try to learn this we have to hit you a bunch of times.
Right. He's like that game Limbo.
He is like the
Where you,
idea you keep getting.
Limbo's like you just keep getting lives, like you get squished and then they just like put you back to like where you were.
Yeah, the video game.
Yeah.
Because we were playing it with your brother
Yeah.
yesterday. But the point being, it's like now normally we don't put them in like that. Like somebody needs to like hit us, but but they're hitting us emotionally. They're hitting us mentally. They're hitting us physically in some things. But your father tends to get hit physically.
Literally, very literally hit.
physically.
So you should not be laughing. It's just ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous, but you wouldn't put that. It would be like it would be like one of those things where it should be a comedy. That's why we're laughing, because you can't make that up, and it's so ridiculous
Mhm.
that you're like, how the hell?
Yeah, well, 'cause I was like at my friend's house doing her hair, He called me for a second, and like an hour later, he called me. He was like, "I just got hit by a car." I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, there was a guy. He had a heart attack. I was waiting for the bus. He jumped the curb, and he hit me." I'm like, didn't we do this already recently?"
Isn't this like deja vu?
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Luckily, he's okay. I
Yes.
mean, he hurt his knees and he hurt his, like he's got some injuries, but luckily
Yeah.
he's okay. But
Yeah.
but the point of there's so many of them that it's like
I know.
you wouldn't write that in a story.
Exactly. And the reason why he's even waiting for the bus is because
Of the
last year a car hit him in his car,
in his truck,
in
yeah,
his truck, and totaled it.
and he had some almost died surgery. Got
Mhm.
ended up getting MRSA. Has a bunch of plates and stuff in his arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They almost had to take his arm off. First, they were like, "We need to help you not die because you have MRSA." Then we need to
Well,
help.
they first
Yeah.
first they had to help him not die from the accident and
Right.
put his arm back together.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then that ended up giving him MRSA because you get that in the hospital. Then they didn't know, and then they screwed that all up.
Mhm.
And then he almost died from the MRSA, and they were going to have to take his arm to try to save his life.
Right.
Luckily, it didn't come to that, and it came very close.
Yeah.
But the idea that it wasn't even a year ago that happened.
Right.
It's like, are you joking? Like, what?
Yeah.
But the literal amounts of, you're like, are you kidding?
Yeah, and there were other things
And
even
there's
before
other,
that
yeah.
were just as bad. So
Yeah.
you're just like, "Oh God, that body, wow."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just using him an example of how many things, like you wouldn't write that in a story
Right.
because there's no, like nobody would believe you.
Yeah.
And if you're writing a story, you want it to be somewhat believable.
Right. It's true.
I mean, I guess somewhat. Be like, all right, we'll give him 3 accidents because, I mean, how many could a real person have if
Right.
you're trying to make like a
It's
fiction
true.
story that,
Right. And like when I was like telling my friends, "Oh, this happened to my dad," they're like, "Yeah, I know you told me that already." Like, "No, this one's new."
Mhm. Well, no, didn't he get? Yeah, no, that's a different one.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you're like, "Oh, Lord."
Wait, I
Anyways.
thought he. Yes, that's another one.
Uh-huh.
But I thought, yep, that too is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad and extreme and scary as all
Mhm.
hell. But
Yeah.
the point being, it's like if we're thinking about what's underneath there, right?
Like, what would he be working on for all of those things? Is he just that dense that he like physically needs to be like smashed?
I don't know. Could be.
You know what I mean? Like what? Because like I don't know like what other things, like what are other like synchronicities that other people tend to have? Like um for me, trying to think what I keep revisiting.
Well, they're usually it's a feeling, and I think if
Yeah.
we said like
Mine's
what the feeling
my
is.
stomach. I think like I.
No, what I'm saying is it's usually a feeling. So the idea of like being out of control, or you never know what's going to happen,
Mhm.
could be what that is. Because just because it's, a physical thing doesn't mean there isn't an emotional. You know what I mean? Like he's getting hit physically, but there's a lot more to it, and
Right.
it brings up an emotion. I mean, the idea that you would feel safe anywhere, you probably wouldn't.
Right.
You know?
Very true.
I mean, if all different scenarios in every single place that you've been in, just going around in general, you've had that many incidents. How would you go out and feel like you'd be safe at all?
Right.
Like you'd never know what was coming. You'd have to be, stressed.
Paranoid.
Yeah, all the time. And we already know you have that with the PTSD. We already know he has PTSD because
Right.
of the things that happened to him. So that feeling in trying to overcome, like knowing that you are a divine being and that you are safe and that there's way more happening.
Mhm.
It's like there's some, like, to the point where it's like, okay, that's just ridiculous now. So it can probably stop,
Mhm.
once you kind of get what they're trying to show you. And what would the thing be? But it's really about the emotion, right? It's really about what is that making you feel about yourself all the time. And it's that feeling like, do I feel safe? Do I feel like that I can't go anywhere without something happening, or that I'm concerned something's going to happen to someone else?
Mhm.
So he would much rather it be him than any of us.
Right.
So it's almost like he's like, in some way, like he'll be like, well, I would, because he would always say that I would rather do this than see you do that. He's
Mhm.
very bad with, you know, and he was very much an EMT for many, many years as a firefighter.
Right.
And he was very good with taking care of, you know, people and, you know, taking people out of cars that were burning and all kinds of, you know, insane stuff. And very good with that and, you know, helping to put them back together and all that amazing, you know.
Mhm.
But at the same time, if it came to like anyone close, he was not that good with it. He would have a very hard time with it.
Right.
And he would always say, I'd rather I could handle it more so than. So in some way, it might be the way that he feels safe. Like if he takes it, then without even realizing it,
Right. Interesting. Yeah, possible.
you know. But that feeling of him not feeling safe about where he's going, you know, because things
Right.
have layers. You know, it's not always what you think it would be. There's usually, you know, more layers to it. But it's interesting. So, and just like as we're talking about, it's like, well, that seems to be coming up. That seems to be coming up. So it's like being shown different things,
Mhm.
you know, and being able to figure out because it's not like we sit there and you know I look at it all the time. You know, it's not like I sit there and look at it like to that level. But since we're talking about it, it's like, okay, what's the feeling of it? And there's a bunch of them.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. Like if you're looking at yourself, it's like, okay, well, this keeps coming up, and boy, the safe, not feeling safe one, and that we have no control is big, because that's very fearful. And if you look at what's going on, like if anyone watches the news, talk about not feeling safe.
I know. Yeah.
I don't watch the news, but I catch. All I need to do is I feel it. I don't
Mhm.
have to hear it.
Yeah, like the news came on after the Super Bowl, and or well, there was like some show that came on, and then the news came on, and I didn't mean to watch the news. I was trying to watch the other show,
Hmm.
and then when it switched over, the news was like, and this lady was like minding her own business at her apartment and got stabbed to death. You're like, oh my. Like, okay, well then, there's that.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's you just catch a 30-second clip and.
You're like, and the TV's gonna go off now.
Hmm.
Like I was trying to watch like World's Best. I was watching like people do cool things and like being all like good at what they do, and then all of a sudden it turned to the news came on, and then it got really scary. Like, ugh.
Yeah. So in knowing that the news, like literally, you can't not feel the news because it's you know feels and then all those things on top of all the political things, on top of all the, you know, what's going on with storms and
Mhm.
cold and, you know, tornadoes and storms of all kinds, you know,
Right.
and then crazy shootings. And it's like, what the hell?
Mhm. Yep. All right. So for the new moon.
Yeah, so the new moon, actually, I feel like since we're, you know, we've had the eclipses. Now, the eclipses last for 6 months, like they go around. So the eclipses that happened are actually tied into, these are the last series, I think, of the Leo eclipses, the ones that just happened last month in January.
Mhm.
So if you go back 2 years, because they started literally 2 years ago, if you
Mhm.
go back 2 years and go like, okay, what was going on back then that you were working on? This was kind of the conclusion of it, trying to like help you to overcome that and to work through it. So it's kind of gives you an idea, like what was going on January 2 years ago. You know, like those first months. You know, like January, February, December. You know, they start a little bit before.
Right.
It's not like they're right on time. You know, like everyone's different, and we all work a little bit different. But you could feel it like the month before, even sometimes a few months before. Like you'll start getting the things that you're going to be working on, and then since these eclipses, I think we're all in Leo. I'm pretty sure they're all in Leo. Um, and this is the last of those. And now the next eclipses that start are going to be, I'm not sure what sign they're in, but whatever sign they're in, it's a different one. So these were like wrapping up, and boy, these have a punch to them because it's not just the eclipses. Like we have eclipses every single, you know, 6 months, but we have the eclipses along with so many planetary alignments that haven't happened in so many years. Like some back to the Renaissance, some back to the 1700s. You know, some that probably have never happened the way that they're happening, and they're at 0 degrees, which means like starting over things, or
Mhm.
at the end, or in the place of where the illusion would be. So you could see like, okay, this is going to feel very illusionary, because of where it is in the planets, you
Right.
know?
Right.
Like
Well, I,
Neptune is a planet of illusion, so that wherever their degrees are right now, it's switching into a degree where we're going to start feeling like there's like the illusion is like what's real, what's illusion, what's
right. Well, I do feel a lot of the time like I'm in like a dream.
uh-huh.
Yeah, like even
Yeah, it's
though
it's very weird dreamland.
yeah, like I have, it is different than brain fog.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, 'cause like I'll have brain fog too, and it's also different than being tired. Like they're all very individual. The dream thing feels like it almost feels like my world looks more flat, like two dimensional kind
Mhm.
of, and like it feels like I'm
You did
kind of just
mention before that it did that.
yeah, and then it feels like I'm like kind of like floating through the day. Like it doesn't feel like I'm actually physically in the day, and like I don't feel like I'm part of, like I'm not interacting with my environment.
Mhm.
And it's very odd.
It is odd. So if people are feeling like, because that's, part of the reason, if you think about like how weird everything feels, because
Mhm.
number one, time, I don't know what day it is, I don't know what month it
Right?
is,
Yeah,
and
time is funny too.
time is off. And as I've told you, time as we know it is changing, has changed for a long time,
Mhm.
but it's going to a whole nother level now. So most people don't know what day it is, or, the time just seems to just go.
Mhm.
And hopefully we get to the point soon, sooner than later, because this fast shit and not knowing anything about time. But hopefully we get to the point where we actually have the way they showed it to me coming is where you get all your things done and then you still have time.
Right.
It's more of you being able to work with time. It works with you, and that's you, like in the creation of like the fifth dimension. It doesn't work the same way that we were. So, which would be very nice. And then the whole sleeping thing is off too because of the eclipses. But the nice thing about that is it brought up a lot of stuff. It was like the last of trying to bring that up. It's not the last of us purging by any means,
Right.
but it was the last of that cycle. So there was so much, and trying to get rid of that feeling like we were talking about in the beginning, that feeling that we're holding on to so much resentment and so much pain from what we feel like somebody else did to us. And whether they did it or not, right? Whether somebody like intentionally tried to hurt you or didn't intentionally try to hurt you but did, um, the way that affects us, and then what we do with that, and then how angry, and then how much we guard our heart and close our heart. And this is the time where our heart chakra is trying to open,
Mhm.
and we're getting more opening. So it's trying to help us push through and get those things out, because you can't open your heart when you feel like you've been so hurt.
Right.
So, in being able to heal from that and know that even if a person did that and tried to hurt you on purpose, there's a reason. But if you don't heal, if you don't forgive yourself, if you don't forgive other people, and you're doing that not for them, you're doing it for you.
Right.
You know, it has nothing to do about the other person, really. It's just like what other people think of you is none of your business.
Mhm.
you
It's
know,
true.
it's like the only reason why it affects us is because we keep trying to make it our business
Mhm.
instead of it being like, yeah, your perception of me is not my business.
Yeah. Well,
My
also,
perception
yeah.
of me is my business,
Right. Yeah.
which is the one that counts because I have to live with that one.
Uh huh.
So that's what I'm saying with this, trying to heal from these, old, like since, and this is not only for our life, this is not for this just for this lifetime, it's past lives, it's lineage, it's like our whole family line. We're healing a lot of things. So when we're talking about like there's so much purging, like is it ever going to end? Well, yes, to the degree that it's, has to be so, it's because it almost feels like guttural because it's down very much in our root and sacral chakras.
Right. And it's funny because I tend to have a lot of like GI struggles.
A lot of people do. That's very
Yeah.
common right now. Very common because that's the places that we're purging. That's where we hold all that. That's where
Mhm.
our life force energy is. And if that's where we're carrying all these memories and all this pain, which then blocks the heart, the emotions,
Right. Yeah. It can't like cycle through like your
right, our
body
energy.
well.
Yeah, it's not running.
Yeah. Because I can feel like I'll feel my stomach will feel like hard and like very like blocked, like the physically energy wise, like it doesn't feel like I have a good
Flow.
flow.
Hmm.
going on. And I'm not talking about like bathroom stuff. I'm just talking about like
Yeah,
an
the energy.
actual like how you feel your body
Move.
can move through energy. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that they're very sensitive to energy and they can feel it before something is happening or knowing that something's
Mhm.
happening. And that's part of what, like, just feeling like this little magic that's happening. Like, even though there's still intense, crazy stuff, that there's something that's different in the air, that there's a little magic, something coming,
Right.
and that maybe the good things that we've been working on putting out are going to start to manifest, which that's what is actually happening.
Right.
You know, the more positive things, the things that we've been working on creating
Mhm.
and putting out and wondering where the F are they?
Right.
Where the F are those, good things? And then getting scared because if we get good things, then that means more bad's happening.
Mhm.
We insane.
Right.
Bottom line, I just think we insane the way that we think.
Yeah. That's
So
very
hopefully our thinking, and that's like part of like this ego death that we're going through. Like the ego is a lot of times feels like the insanity part.
Yeah.
Here's the made up story. The ego gets involved.
Mhm.
And then it tells you, well, no, if the person did this, it means this because, and that's all of the program, because we always associate it to something.
Right.
And if somebody didn't talk to me, say somebody doesn't talk to you for today, and they don't get back to you, a lot of people that bothers them,
Right.
most of us that bothers, um, because of something that happened in the past.
Mhm.
Not because most of the time, like the person's busy, otherwise they would.
Right. Yeah. They're like taking an old experience and being like, oh well, my example of this last time is that this other thing happened, so now I'm gonna apply this
Right,
to this situation when really it has nothing to do with it.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, it could have some similarities, and that's why the setups always look so good.
Mhm.
Like similarities of setup, but it doesn't mean the person's doing it. It doesn't mean the person's doing that. That may not be
Right.
their intention. They could be busy. And we always go, but if I'm busy, I'd still text you back.
Right. Yeah.
We always use us as not the other person.
Right.
Like, well, do they?
Right. Yeah. Because like if I'm really busy, I won't text back for a long time, and sometimes people are like, "Are you ignoring me?" Or like, Did you see my text, or did something like what's going on?" I'll be like, "Nope, just physically can't write you back yet, or I don't have an answer, so I'm gonna if I don't, I have to leave it like unread so I don't forget,
Right.
because
Yeah, I
I'll
have to leave it
forget."
unread because I'll forget too.
Yeah.
So if I read a lot of my clients' things and I know that I can't do that right now or can't get back to them, then I leave it unread because
Right.
it'll go down the line.
So I've been doing that to myself a lot, where like I have some stuff in my room that I keep just being like, well, I'll make time for that. Like it's almost like I'm leaving my own personal stuff unread, like from like the way my room is right now. Like I don't like how there are some things that are like I put them out so I see them to do them.
Oh, just to irritate yourself so you get
Just
them done.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like there's like some paperwork things that I have to get done. So I like purposely like left them in my room so I have to walk by them, but I haven't had a chance to do them yet. So
Mhm.
now it's just like nudging, being like, hey, hey, that you didn't give yourself any time to do that. Don't you feel good about yourself? You're good at organizing time. Haha. So it's like this little like,
Don't you like how paperwork talks?
yeah, paperwork talks to me like I am a child.
Inanimate objects talk to you and tell you how fucked up you are for not
Mhm.
doing that.
Right.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Just in paperwork though.
I know.
Yeah. It
Not that paper doesn't have, feelings to it, but not the feeling that you keep giving
right,
it.
yeah. It's just, and it has to do with like just, I think what it boils down to is that because I don't like doing it, I don't want to give the time.
Really? We didn't know that.
So then when it's like this cycle because I don't enjoy doing it, then I get like mad that I'm allowing myself to,
Do you know what this year is? The time to get over that
oh yeah,
and
yeah.
to let that go. Because if we said, like, when did it really start getting bad? Because that's why I'm saying, like, it's a 2-year cycle,
Mhm.
and that these are the ends of those eclipses.
Yeah, that actually is about a 2-year struggle.
Okay, so that would be, okay,
That's
look
also
back.
when I started using a ledger.
that may be when you start to look back
Mhm.
and you start to be like, okay, what is it that I was struggling with, or what came up then that came bigger in my face that I've been working on? And there's more than one thing, but you'll see it if you
Right.
kind of go back and think about it, because
Right.
it'll help you to be like, oh, okay, this is the thing that I really need to.
Right. Because originally, like, the old stuff used to be I would miss emails because I wouldn't check them regularly. So then people would be like, "Oh no, like this person."
Okay, technical difficulties. I have no idea where that stopped. I just happened to look over and saw it. So now that I don't know where it stopped, um, the thing that I was saying, and I'll say it in case it stopped in there, was as far as looking back 2 years and seeing like what the struggle was, and you were saying one of them is your paperwork and
Right.
ledger and getting back to people, because I don't think the getting back to people on emails was I think it was just stopped right there.
Mhm.
So back to where you were on the getting back to people who you
Right.
made feel like you didn't give a shit.
Right. Yeah. Well, so now at least I am better at replying quicker, at least to work things.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm still not great at taking the time to do the paperwork side. So it feels like the creative part of me is it's weird because I'm not giving myself the right amount of time for either thing.
Mhm.
Neither are doing well.
Interesting. So what's it trying to tell you? Like, what's it trying to help you with? Because that's kind of the point, right? It's like it's
Right.
trying to help you with something. What's it trying to help you with?
Right.
And it's not to beat yourself up and say you can't do it. It's actually the opposite.
Right. Well, I'm not
After
sure.
it does the making you feel stupid and you don't know what you're doing
Right,
and
I'm
there's
not
something
sure.
wrong with you and
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Let something go? Give
maybe,
something up? I don't know.
maybe
You
do it
know?
differently. Stop saying that it's hard to do. You know, have a
Right.
new perspective on it.
Right. Well, so that's where the struggle comes in, is because it's like, well, if you've been doing it for a certain way for like however long, what can you do differently?
Mhm.
And then you kind of like run it through your head and be like, well, I have to do this, so that means I can't let that go. So then how do I find the time to do this other thing? You know, so it's like
Okay, yeah, because that's the feeling of being stuck. Like we can't
right, yeah. So I
get
feel
anywhere.
right. So I feel very stuck because it's like I don't want to pay someone to do my paperwork,
Mhm.
but then so that means it leaves me to do it myself. But
Mhm.
I also don't want to do it.
It can't do itself.
No, apparently no. So so then it's like, okay, well, I didn't go to school to be a tax person. Like
Most people didn't.
yeah, but no, but so this is where the struggle comes in. Where it's like, okay, it's like you
Most
have
people don't struggle with you're not doing accounting work. You're not doing the accountant department. You're just adding up some numbers and writing them down so you
yeah,
keep track of them.
right. What I'm talking
You make
about
it sound like you're being an accountant.
No, what I'm talking about just in general about like keeping track of where all the papers are and like how I log my information and like if I pay someone or if
Hmm?
like all of it. The whole I'm not talking about just at the end of the year when it comes time. It's just the fact of like because I didn't go to school for business, but then somehow I'm a business owner, it's like a trial and error situation instead of like a
Right, but you actually log it in pretty well and
right. Yeah, no,
keep
it's
track
like
of it. I
yeah.
mean, you actually have way more paperwork stuff than I do, which
I
makes,
also have 4 different businesses.
well, I have more than one, but
Yeah.
still, you because you don't like paperwork, it seems like you have more paperwork.
Mhm.
It's almost like you have a weird setup that you have more paperwork.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because paperwork doesn't like really cross my mind that much as a that big of a deal.
Mhm.
So it seems like I have less paperwork or
Right.
don't really pay much
And
attention to.
it also feels like I can't get rid of clutter.
Well, you do, you bring, I don't know, it could be because you bring stuff in just more faster than you take stuff out.
But I
But
mean,
none.
but I'm talking about like my desk. I'm not talking about things.
Well, you could be talking about things
Yeah.
too,
Like
because you do.
cuz things that doesn't matter as much because like I don't need to get stuff. Like I don't care about the stuff. It's like I would like my brain feels cluttered because there's too many things around. And it almost makes me feel like trapped in my world, because it's like
But that's
I
the new perspective. Like, what's the magic that you are starting to feel like? What's the perspective that you're starting to
right.
get that's different?
It almost feels like, well, why are those things making you feel stuck, and why are they even important enough to allow you to be stuck? Like, what's keeping them there? Like, what's the
You.
no, meaning like this is me asking my own question to myself.
Mhm.
Meaning like, what's the thing that, like, why are they important enough to just
That you
throw
give
out?
them. Well, why are they important enough that you give them that much energy?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, so it's like, so the magic is more like, is it like a thing where you stop, I don't want to say you stop caring, because it's not that you stop caring, it's just not, it like fades away, maybe? I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, it would be like there's not as much importance on it. Like your
Right, yeah.
intention. It's like the more things we put attention on, the more things that we stress about it, right? So
Mhm.
it's like the intention instead of attention, right? If the intention is to make it easier, then we get more easy because we're not worrying about it or it's not bothering us. But if we're constantly putting attention on it with stress on it, then we're basically saying it's too hard all the time, and that's something that you've been working on. That's why I'm saying like, what is the eclipses for? And since you've been working on that, that's kind of it. It's like, okay, so you keep putting your attention and saying, see, this is, I'm stuck, this is clutter, this is a mess, this can't change, I don't know how to do this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, instead of being like, okay, I need first I need to think differently about it.
Right.
So before I can get out, I need to think differently and feel differently about me in association with this.
Right, because a lot of me wants to just take all of it and throw it away,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't helpful either, because then that's like burying it.
Right.
So it's like you like almost like reach this like stress point where you're just like, I have to take a nap.
Well, these days a nap is really
You're just,
necessary.
yeah, because it's like you like have so much to do that the best option is to do none of it and sleep, and that's not good either.
Well, the best option could be sleep right now
Yeah.
because it actually feels like we need rest
Yeah,
and we're not
but
getting it.
no, that's what I'm saying. It's like
I
'cause you
know.
like work yourself up to the point of exhaustion, and then you fall over, and nothing's changed. You're just
And
now,
nothing's done.
yeah.
But that's kind of the idea, right? It's like, okay, so now I'm going to exhaust myself thinking about it instead of doing it.
Right.
Which how many times have we done that? It's like going to the grocery store. There's lots of times I'm like, I hate going to the grocery store.
Right. Whereas I like going to the grocery store.
I know. So
Yeah.
here's the difference.
Yeah.
Like paperwork doesn't bother me in the least, so
Right.
it doesn't stress me out. But going to the grocery store, it depends on the day and
Mhm.
depends on what I have, that I'll be like, I just can't.
Right.
So I have
Yeah.
to start what I do with that
You
is
like prep yourself.
I prep myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, well, let me just get myself protected, and
Mhm.
well, if I go this time, that's better. It's it's just making it more comfortable for me to
Right.
do it.
Oh, so.
But I don't not do it.
Right. Well, so a friend of mine has a flying fear,
Hmm.
and she's been um working really hard on, like, she used to have to like medicate and like maybe like get a drink or something, and for the past like a couple times she's been flying, she's been saying this thing where like anytime she gets this like fear, anxiety, like freak out, she's like, love and light, like I'm love, I'm light, like it's okay, how, you know what I mean? Like she's like, whatever this is, like let it go through, so
Hmm.
rather than like masking it with outside
Hmm.
things that will like dull it, she's like taking it on,
But did she ever think that she might be picking up other people?
which is also possible, but it's
Because
just
that was what mine was.
right. But
To the extreme that I had it was basically because I'm so sensitive to other
right,
people.
yeah. And I was explaining to her how, because like she just went away, and she was really proud of herself because she did like really well.
Hmm.
And I was saying how someone once asked me what my favorite place was, and my answer was the airport, because the airport to me is like full of possibilities
Hmm.
and like destinations and excitement, and people are like moving and going and exploring, and it feels like adventure and fun. And
So why don't you put your paperwork in the airport?
right, well, so I bring my paperwork in my backpack with me, and I get a lot of work done. when I'm on the plane. But although this time I decided to watch a movie instead.
No, what
Um,
I'm saying is, it's the feeling that you get
Yeah.
at the airport.
No, I understand, but so what I was saying was, if you need to tap into her, if you need to tap into energy, this is how I feel about the airport and flying. When I'm on the plane, it's like I'm stuck sitting here. This is relaxing time. It's just for me. I'm here. I'm going, letting the plane take me on this journey, and like I'm accepting it and liking it, and it's great.
Hmm.
Um,
So, but you're looking forward to the journey,
yeah,
and you're excited about being in the airport and going on the journey, so you're not thinking about the other.
right. So it's like, even though it's like hours to get
Hmm?
from your house to the airport, through security, through, like this, like it's like a big process,
Hmm.
and like from door to door, it's like a long time, and it like kind of like can be draining. But because I actually like all of it,
Hmm.
I actually like look forward to it, even though like sometimes I'm getting up at like 3 in the morning.
But that's what I'm saying. If you use that same way that you
Right.
think, because most people, that's like, ugh,
Right. Yeah.
they're excited to go where they're going. They don't want the in between part. It's like, can we just portal over there?
Right. Yeah. Teleport.
Yeah,
Right.
I want
Or
to
yeah.
teleport over
Like
there. I want
I
to
like.
not have to get out the door and get from my car to the airport. From the airport to the plane is, hours of in, traffic, or the plane to the train to the this to the that to the bus. You're like, oh my God, this is too much.
Right. I like it.
Right, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of people don't,
Yeah.
and that would make their experience way different.
Right. And stressful and
Right.
yeah.
Versus yours, which is regardless of however you're getting there,
Right.
it may be one way may be a little bit harder, but you still are enjoying it because you're in the process of excitement of going somewhere that you want to go.
Hmm.
So you look forward to
Right.
that.
Yeah. I think one of the reasons too why I particularly like the airplane is because no one can find me in the air.
Hmm.
So it kind of feels exciting because I'm just like, yes, I'm alone. Like, could be like, I can really feel like, I really feel like, because I don't like, JetBlue has that like Wi-Fi now. And I'm like, no, you ruined my quiet time. Why did you bring internet into this? Like, so I like still turn my phone off and pretend like that isn't there.
Well, see if everyone's gonna know soon that it is, so you're gonna be
Right. So now I'm just like, ugh. So you just have to just, you just like, I think ultimately what I'm trying to say is like, it's important to give yourself like the space to be quiet and not,
right. You need
yeah,
the space because that's how it helps you figure out things.
yeah.
And that's where we need the downtime, and why we talked about meditation being so big.
Mhm.
But that's why I was saying, like, if you use your airport thing for, like, if we're saying, like, we're reframing something, that feeling of going to the airport, where most people hate that, we'd have to
Mhm.
use something that they enjoy to reframe it to get them to the airport.
Right.
You can use the airport and that to reframe your paperwork because
Right.
it's something that you enjoy.
Mhm.
Being on the airplane, getting to the destination, all those things, as much as they seem like they're something that you look forward to and enjoy the process of.
Right.
Instead of paperwork being enjoying the process of, it's like, oh, this feels really good because it's done, and then I got this in the book, and I know this is all. It's like
Mhm.
it's steps. The airport steps.
Right.
It's the same thing in your
Right.
paperwork. It's
Yeah.
steps.
And it's like for some reason, I'm like the thing that like is associating to me is like I feel like I work a little backwards where things that are generally easy for me are hard for a lot of people, and vice versa. So things that like paperwork um is like a like duh easy thing,
Mm.
whereas like for me like taking time to go to yoga or go to the gym or something like that, like I'll go.
Right, where it's harder for people to do that, to
Yeah.
get that.
Right, because it's like I think more of a like because I'm more physical, like I'm a physical like
Hmm.
I like crafts and I like like the gym and
Yeah, but
cleaning
even
and
people
yeah.
that are physical don't necessarily like going to the gym.
Right.
Could have more to do with the people at the gym
That's
or
true.
what's going on at the gym.
Yeah, that's true.
So they, rather exercise, like go for a run, or because
Right.
they could meditate or do whatever they're doing.
Right.
But you could still do that at the gym and be in your own little
Right.
bubble.
Yeah.
It
Right.
just depends on the person and what feels or
Mhm.
doesn't feel,
Right.
comfortable. But those are all things that are changeable over practice and, like changing your mind about it and seeing it differently. And that's kind of like where the magic comes in. It's like, what are the things that you're starting to see differently that are old things? And paperwork is one of them, along with the way that, because it's really about the way that it makes you feel.
Right.
The
Yeah.
only
'Cause-
reason why paperwork is a problem is because of the way it makes you feel.
Right, because it makes me feel like I'm drowning.
Right. And that feeling like you're drowning and that you don't know what you're doing and you don't know how to get out is pretty much what we're feeling in all different areas.
Right.
Whether it be with paperwork, with our business, with our career, with our relationships, with our family, with our friends.
Right.
Like there's all different ways that same feeling comes up in all of those areas.
Right.
And
yeah.
you'll
you are just slowly sinking to the point where you're just like, what? Like, where do I go? Like, how do I get? Like, where is the place that I can grab onto to climb up? You know.
and
I don't have an answer yet. I mean, like the answer that's been working for me is taking time to not move.
Mhm.
And when I say not move, I actually mean um kind of like look inward and see actually.
Well, that's where all the answers are.
Yeah, well, but it's one of those things that if you don't do it and you say that you're going to do it and you don't do it, then nothing happens.
Really?
Like everything.
Really?
Like everything. Yeah, well, because people are like, oh, well, yeah, I meditate. Or it's like, all right, well, most things are a lot like brushing your teeth. It's like if you don't do it like at least twice a day, it doesn't work that well.
Yeah, it's definitely a practice.
Yeah.
It's a practice. And the more you do something, the more it becomes a habit
Mhm.
and the more that you can enjoy doing it.
Right.
So,
Well, and the more I think you recognize when you're out of line.
yeah, and the more that you recognize the answers from in,
Right.
like what you're getting. Because, like a lot of people, we're working on, people trusting their intuition because we're getting so much more,
Mhm.
telepathy and being more empathic. And a lot of people don't know their intuition. Like they're hearing it, they're feeling it, but we don't trust it.
Right.
But in working on trying to trust it, I had somebody, one of my clients the other day, because they're so analytical
Mhm.
that I had them hold like an object when they came for their appointment. I said, all right, well, we're going to practice just you going by your feeling,
Mhm.
so like we're going to
So
try to
those
be
an
out of your head.
exercise for them.
Yeah, we're going to try to be out of your head. So I gave him an object and I said, okay, now you just stay here and I'm going to go hide it in these couple of rooms.
Okay.
And then came back and said, all right, now I just want your feeling. Just feel where it is.
Mhm.
And them being so analytical, they literally were able to tap into their feeling and went to the they went to all the different rooms and they said, nope, it feels like it's in here. It wasn't there.
Mhm.
And then they were very close. They had their back to it and they were feeling in front of them and they're like, it feels like it's right around here. It was right behind them.
Right.
And it was like in the same cluster of things, like it was.
Yeah.
So they were very close, and that was very good for their first time of trying that, and they were surprised.
Yeah.
They literally just, I said, so what was the thing? Because you want to pay attention, like when we played that game of the 0 to 10, or we played the card game about, okay, sending that image of the card so that the person can get it. It's like, how do you receive it? Because once you know that you're getting it, it's like, all right, what's happening?
Yeah.
And they were saying, well, they felt their hands start to tingle.
Interesting.
That was something that their hands would start to feel a little bit tingly. I said, okay, so that gives you some idea of what a feeling of something that has to do with your intuition happens.
Mhm.
Because you're getting information from outside and inside, from your higher self and from your connection. What happens? How do you get it? Because that's the thing you got to start paying attention to, so that you know that you could start to trust it, right?
Right.
And
Or you can like recognize what the feeling is when
Mhm.
it's telling you that.
Right.
Yeah. Like
So-
I can't describe mine. Like mine's just like a weird little like knowing.
yeah, that's a lot of people say that. It's just
Uh-huh.
like this knowing that pops in. Like you
Mhm.
just get this strong knowing, and then you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I
Yeah.
should be taking a
Where
left
it's
there.
like, oh, you know what it is? This is like a good way to describe it. It's like when the teacher asks you a question and you're little and you like know the answer and you're like, oh, I got it. You know,
Mhm.
like there's like that. It's like, but it's like that like gut
That's
knowing
strong.
where you like read the book and you knew the answer and like maybe everyone didn't read the book so they don't know 100%, but they like might know.
Mhm.
But then you're like, yes, I remember the sentence. I got this. You know, and then you're like your hands up. You're like, yeah,
Yes.
you know.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, do you see how strong that knowing is?
Yeah, but that's the feeling is very affirmative.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So then you trust that because it's
Mhm.
so strong.
Yeah.
But if you weren't paying attention to it, would you actually have recognized it if you didn't pay attention over time?
No. No, you have no idea.
You know, like
Yeah.
you might feel that knowing and then go, well, that's probably whatever.
Right.
And then you'd kind of go by it. And after practice, like after paying attention and actually
Right.
getting aware, it's like, oh, when that happens, oh, that's my knowing. That's when I know something
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
trust that. And now that I trust it, I go with it.
Right. Like the other thing that keeps popping into my mind as an example of like how you know is like let's say you're working on like a muscle memory pose, like let's say you're doing like you're trying to like work on maybe a handstand or something that's like you actually have to practice to recognize when you're in and out of balance.
Yep.
And there's no way to, you just can't know. Like you actually have to do it a bunch of times to know the difference between when you're aligned and when you're not aligned. And then like all of a sudden
Right. You could feel it.
something clicks in and we're just like, oh,
That's it.
that's what everything feels like when all of my bones are stacked and I'm like totally aligned and balanced. And then you fall out of it and you're like, crap. But
But you know it when you're in
but
it.
you know it when you're in it. It's like this like, oh, that's what it is. You know. But it's like, and every time you do it, it's easier to find that
Place.
to come back.
Mhm.
But it's like without having all of the hours of practicing up until then, you have no gauge to even know where you are.
Right.
You know?
Because you wouldn't know like what that even felt like.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah. You're
You
like,
wouldn't know what it felt like
you
yet.
have
You
no
wouldn't
idea.
recognize it.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to say. There's like a physical example of like the feeling.
And that's why it's important to practice it and
Mhm.
to the more that you do it, the more that you understand it, the more that you practice it, the more that you go, oh, that's what it is. Oh, that's mine.
Mhm.
You know, I get this and it's a thought that pops into my head and it's just a knowing that I have. Or it's a feeling that I get inside my stomach.
Right.
Or it's something that I hear on the right side of my head. Like
Yeah.
it's interesting because everyone's different.
Right. It's like and this is like a funny example because like everyone will know like when you hear news that you don't like let's say like you had like a feeling like someone was going to break up with you
Mhm.
and then the person's like I don't want to date you anymore and then you go ooh and your stomach like does this like drop um that's still the same that's like a feeling that like you still get that every time and
Right.
that's like a thing that like doesn't it's still like the feeling of it's just you you heard it, so you had the affirmation.
Right.
So then you got like that like gulp gut weird feeling, but it's like it happens every single time. Like any anxiety thing has that weird stomach thing
Mhm.
that happens to it. So it's like in the same way, it's like because we practice feeling crap more often, it's easier to recognize your stomach having like weird anxious
Right.
jumps, you're like, oh crap, I feel anxious today. Why? What the hell? And it's like you may not like you're shrugging off the like higher things popping in, being like, um, take a left here so you'll avoid all the traffic. Your
Mhm.
brain's like telling you that, and then you're like not thinking about it.
And we also rely so much on technology
Right.
because now we have all those apps that tell you how to drive.
Right. Like I was trying to come here to podcast with you, from my thing today, and I got stuck in traffic when I was about to get off the exit before because my body was like, "You want Starbucks," and did not listen to it. And maybe I didn't actually want Starbucks. Maybe I just wanted to get off the exit.
Mhm.
I knew Starbucks was off of that exit, so I was like, "Oh, maybe I'll get off this exit." 30 seconds later, I'm waiting in traffic for like 20 minutes, which made me late to podcast without,
Right, which is the thing. Like when I would hear take a left, and I'm arguing with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm arguing with something that's saying no, go straight.
You're still on the fastest route.
I'm going,
Uh-huh.
no, left is the fastest, and they're going, no, go straight, go take the back way, and
Uh-huh.
I'm going, no,
Right.
left is the fastest, the highway is the fastest,
Yeah.
take the back way.
And then,
Now I'm arguing. I'm like, no,
mhm.
the
You're
highway's
like,
the
"Not
fastest.
today."
And then get on the highway, and then sat there for 2 hours and really had to pee very bad, and there was nothing you could do. It's like, are you kidding?
Right. You're like, this is good.
God, I should have taken the back way and listened.
Mm-hmm.
How many times are we going to do that? But that to me was the thing that tells you that you already know. Listen next time, because if you didn't have the experience, if you always listened, then you wouldn't know that was the thing.
Right. Yeah, it's true. You wouldn't have that gut knowing. Like, there's like this. This is like an example where like I got like a set of teacups and I was bringing them for Christmas, right?
Mhm.
Nicholas got me them. And I was bringing them from up in the living room downstairs into the kitchen, and there's like a set of stairs there. And I'm holding them, and I'm holding all 4 of them, and they were like stacked up like a normal thing that stacks well. And I was like, I should not be lazy and try to take all 4 of these down. I should hold one in each hand. And I was like, no, it'll be fine. And then nope. And like, but it was like, that was when I learned though, that experience happening, because
Was the feeling.
it did fall, and there was like this weird knowing where like, probably like one of these is gonna fall, even though they were perfectly stacked and it was okay.
Mhm.
Something happened, it fell, one of them broke, and I learned then that's what that is.
Mhm.
That's what that is.
And that's why not listening like it helps you to understand it. It's
Right.
like I hear it and I go, well, no, it should be fine.
Mhm.
And then you go, wait, I already had that feeling and I didn't listen.
Right.
So the more that you get to know it, what it is, then you start listening and you're like, oh, okay, because
Yeah. Well, there's certain things where like I'll test it,
Mhm.
where sometimes like I'll like hear it and then purposely like not do it to see what happens. And there are some things where I'm like, I better listen just because like the other thing that I'm feeling would be way worse. So
Right.
let me like.
Right, because there is also a feeling about because mine was like taking a left or going the back way, felt like one was going to be slower than the other one.
Right.
And I'm arguing about which one's faster, not anything more than.
Yeah, nothing major. Like sometimes I'm like, I have to tell a person something, and like they pop into my mind, and I have to talk to them at that second.
Hmm?
And then I reach out to them, and they're like, "Wow, I'm going through some crappy things. That was really cool that you reached out to me." Where it's like,
Hmm?
rather than shrugging it off.
Yes, and that's why you do that, because
Mhm.
you know now.
Right.
It's like there's a reason that you're getting that. And we all get that, but
Mhm.
it's like our intuition is getting stronger, and us being connected is getting stronger. Everyone's, empathic, telepathic abilities, getting to be off the chart. I know when
Can you feel all of my back pain?
well, actually, yes, and I got my own, so I'm like, I don't know which one's yours and which one's
Right.
mine. But that, like, last week I had some, like, crazy telepathy that was insane. I kept hearing, I heard things about at the doctor's office that I had to go for an appointment, and I heard all this stuff about that was going on at the doctor's office. And then right after that, I had to do something else, and I heard a bunch of stuff that was going on there. And then I was going to bring my coat for repair, and I heard you're going to get a new coat, and I'm like, and I'm rushing because I'm trying to get, and I'm listening. Just these are just coming
Little,
into
like,
my
things
head
that pop in.
that
Yeah.
just pop in, and after I got to, and they took my jacket to be repaired, and it was really cold that day. They were having a big sale, and how I ended up with the coat, I don't know, but I have a coat. And I started laughing because I didn't even realize it till after I got in the car and was
You're like,
driving
there's
away.
my coat.
I was like, I did hear that earlier. You're getting a new coat. I'm like, I didn't need a new coat, I didn't think, but I didn't have
She
a
did
coat.
need a new coat. Hers ripped, and she did not have one any longer.
Well, it was going to get repaired. It was going to take 2 weeks. In 30 below zero weather, I was like, okay,
Yeah, in the
that
Arctic
in
tundra.
the Arctic tundra.
And now it's 60 today. For some, I don't. It's warmer here than it was in Florida all week when I was gone last week.
Yeah,
And there's sunshine outside. I don't understand.
it's kind of interesting. But that's the, crazy of what's going on. Like, we're like the weather.
Yeah.
So just
New moon. Yeah.
just in knowing just in knowing that, pay attention to your intuition, pay attention to that magic that you feel. When you feel that joy, and today's the day that we set intentions, new moon's
Right.
great time to set intentions,
We'll be
but
doing
pay
that soon.
attention to that little magic that you're feeling, those little moments of joy, that little thing of something good's happening,
Mhm.
and try to like ride those waves out. And also look back over the last couple of years and be like, okay, what are the things that I've been going through and experiencing? Because that's the thing that I'm working on overcoming. That's what's been going on for 2 years in whatever area it is. That's the thing that I'm trying to finally heal from. That's the thing that I'm
Mhm.
trying to really overcome and know that that doesn't have to be that way and get a new perspective on it. Um, so I don't know where, and I'm hoping that it's all fine, and you'll hear it when you see it, when you see it, when you're not going to see it, when you are listening, you'll hear where all of a sudden it shut off because apparently there's a little technical difficulty, and the thing just went. I just looked down and said overload. I'm like, did that stop? Um, and then just turned it back on. So it should be all fine. You'll just hear the glitch.
Right.
You'll hear the glitch, and then you'll hear me say it. Um, Remember to like, share, and subscribe. We are on, where the hell are we? SoundCloud. This is Only Your Life. And on iTunes. This is Only Your Life. And
Are we on Bandcamp?
I don't know. I think you can find it in those. I think you can find it
Yeah.
through because it goes through different
We're
podcast
on YouTube.
medias. Um, I haven't put a few. There's a bunch of episodes I need to put up on YouTube. I haven't had a chance to got.
Mhm.
I can't speak again now.
But
I haven't gotten a chance to put them up yet because we are behind in these, and I've had so many emergencies that I haven't had a chance to do that. But
Mhm.
in on the YouTube, yeah, that's going to be on YouTube. At the same time, there's some up that are on YouTube already, and then the Instagram, Mylana_inspired. And please, the more people that you know that really need to understand what's going on and to help us, because ours is about, trying to help you get through and understand day-to-day stuff, and to start to give you some tools to help you with what's happening as we're trying to ascend, and to get you understanding you're not the only one going through this, because most people don't talk to a lot of other people about things like this, and it's really
Right.
nice to know you're not alone because you think you're going nuts and you think that there's all kinds of your life is just a fucking disaster or all you're just going through hell by yourself, and no, we all are going through hell, and at the same time it's there for a reason. It's the thing that's going to help us to get out. It's the thing that's going to help us like finally stand up and become the superheroes that we truly are, the beings that we truly are,
Mhm.
so that we could stop being human doings and start to be the beings,
Mhm.
the very highly evolved beings of light that have all kinds of superpowers.
Mhm.
I wonder what they are. We have a bunch of them. And everyone has them, like we're using a bunch of them now and we're getting more all the time.
Mhm.
So enjoy your superpowers and try to figure out what they are. One of them is going inside so that you can understand what the hell's going on with you and why. And that you are a divine being, that you are here having an experience. It's not who you are, it's the experience you're having that makes you believe that this is what you are supposed to be, a human doing, not a human being.
Right.
So, everyone enjoy, and if you have any questions, you could always email us, and that's on Mylana at AOL. But if there's any podcasts you'd like us to do, any questions you have, let us know. And we will talk to you soon. And hopefully this new moon feels like it's lighter. It doesn't have the same feeling of the other crazy, eclipses and stuff. So in this feeling a little bit lighter, that hopefully we're getting more uplifting stuff and a little bit more perspective on the magic that's in the air underneath all the crazy, um, to help you to be like, oh, there is magic. I can feel the magic along with the crazy. All right, Hals, what do you got to say?
Toodles.
Toodles. Toodles. We'll talk to you soon, and hopefully not in a month because I think we're behind one.
Yeah.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.